Hey Instagram family, it's Sophia. I wanted to hop on. I'm going to give you guys a second to catch up and pop on here. But I want to talk a little bit about what everybody's talking about, and that is the election results. First, I hope you saw Vice President Harris's concession speech. It was amazing and full of grace and wisdom and hope and joy. And even though she lost, what I loved about her concession speech is that she still had that spirit, she still had that smile, and she still had that joy that's something deep within. And I think that's one of the takeaways for all of us about this campaign. I want to give you some context, first of all, and let me hear your thoughts, share what you thought about the election results last night. But I want to say that, first of all, context matters, right? She had 107 days, or roughly a little over 3 months and 2 weeks time to set up a campaign, to put together a campaign strategy, a message, a vision, raise over $1 billion, which she did thanks to we the people, not the billionaire class, not the multi-gazillionaire class like Elon Musk and others who basically bankrolled Trump's campaign. But she did something extraordinary, and I want us to reflect in this moment where we feel disappointed, disillusioned. I know a lot of us, me most of all, I'm stunned and shocked that a man who is literally a convicted felon, who literally caused an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol after the 2020 election, and who took documents and did all manner of things that are just unlawful, immoral, in violation of our constitutional norms and codes and ethics, got reelected. And he didn't just get reelected, folks. He got reelected resoundingly. It was a mandate. He has a Republican Senate. Looks like there are 54 seats right now that the Republicans have to the Democrats. Still a few out. The House is still in question. And so I think at this moment, those of us who supported Harris, those of us who were Biden-Harris people or Harris-Walz people, need to ask ourselves some questions about where we are and what is it that was missed in these 107 days that caused people, despite everything they know about Donald Trump and all the baggage that he brings, and the nastiness and the divisiveness and the downright hatefulness, why would they choose him? And I have a couple thoughts. First, yes, please keep sharing your thoughts because I want to hear from you, because I'm curious to know how you see it as the American people. But I think the first thing is the economy was clearly the galvanizing issue. Now, I am an upper middle class citizen. I'm blessed. I do well. I know that many are middle class and working class. And I can tell you that if I went to the grocery store and I was shocked at the prices, and I don't have a family to feed like that. I don't have, 4 kids or 3 kids that I have to buy clothes for and shoes for like my best friend does and raise them up in a difficult economy. I know that if I felt it, other people felt it. So that's number one. The economy was a real big issue for working people, everyday people who had come through COVID. And the Biden recovery was real. Vice President Harris and President Biden really did a good job of recovering the economy by all objective measures. As someone who was an economist in terms of my bachelor's degree, an econ major, I can tell you that if you look at the data and you crunch numbers like a nerd, like a wonk, and you look at the stock market, it's a great economy. Lowest unemployment in 50 years, everything. But that doesn't mean that trickled down to regular, everyday, working people. And I also agree with this comment here, which was a second point that I was going to make after saying it was really the economy, stupid. And I think Vice President Harris had to walk a really fine line between being the change agent she wanted to be and being tied as the vice president to Joe Biden and getting the backlash that people felt directed at him because they were feeling it in their pocketbook, right? Nobody talks about the fact that Biden inherited Trump's economy, his COVID economy. That's just true. That's not a Republican or Democrat or partisan argument. It's just factually true. So I think the second thing that this person just brought up was people didn't vote. Black and brown communities voted very interestingly, but if you look at the overall numbers in the 2020 election, COVID shut in, early voting was a new thing. We had record turnouts. This turnout wasn't bad considering, but there were a lot less votes in the pool. And if you look at the areas where Trump overperformed in places like Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, Vice President Harris, like even where she won, her margins were less than Biden's, in some cases by 10 points or 5 points or 3 points. And so when you look at a place like Michigan, and you look at Wayne County, which is Detroit and the Oakland suburbs, she needed to run up huge margins there, and they weren't huge. They were good, but they weren't as big as Biden's, or they weren't as big as they needed to be. So I think that you look at those first two things, the economy and then voter apathy. I think people were worn out, and I think the switch, I think had Biden stepped out in 2022 and said, I'm not running, and there had been a primary, and Harris had emerged out of the pack, or maybe it was a primary with just a few people, and she had a strong showing and had time to get the American people to know her, I think that maybe she would have fared a little bit better. I think the third thing is something that when we did the national coffee call for Harris, I had on pollster, political scientist Rachel Bittkoffer, and she's amazing and I think very underrated in the pack of male pollsters and prognosticators in this country. And racism and sexism were there. There's no doubt about it. And those are things we don't like to talk about, but they're real. Hillary faced it in 2016. 53% of white women voted for Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton. In 2020, Joe Biden did a little bit better. I think that number got down to like maybe 51% of white women supported Biden. And then in 2024, Harris lost 52% of white women. White women, I said it all along, would decide this election and decide who was the next president. And they did. The abortion issue did not galvanize the way that I think the Democrats way overplayed their hand on that. I think talking about women's health and safety outside of the context of abortion would have been a better strategy, meaning if my daughter has endometriosis or my daughter has fibroids or my daughter gets an ovarian cyst, I did as a young woman, it almost cost me my life. I almost bled to death. And so these things that you can talk about that are common sense things where people like Liz Cheney, who's a diehard conservative pro-lifer, stepped back and said, this isn't right. This isn't the intent of us wanting to not have abortion laws that give, abortion through 20 weeks or 24 weeks or whatever Roe was. So my point is that sexism and racism were there. And Rachel talked about this when she was on the call, that you could see it in the polling data, but the pollsters weren't talking about it, that it was there, the undertow of the men, the toxic masculinity that Democrats were talking about. And that is a conversation we need to have as a country. Why are men still so violent towards each other, towards women, towards children, the gun violence? All those things are conversations we as a nation must have, without a doubt. But the challenge becomes how we have that conversation in a way that doesn't alienate working blue-collar men, Hispanics, blacks, whites in those Rust Belt states, the blue-collar East Coast states, the old industry manufacturing states, and into the Sun Belt, right? And so Vice President Harris I was telling this to somebody on election night before we saw any results, that I was concerned even if she won, that she would be a one-term president, because I thought she's got a hell of a task ahead of her, trying to have a coalition of moderate Republicans who hate Trump and the Republican Party, and then progressives to her left, people that do not believe that the Biden-Harris policy in Israel and Gaza was right. And then you have to deal with your blue dog type Democrats in your Michigan areas and Wisconsin areas, right? More conservative, socially, union workers. Then you got to deal with young people and trying to make sure that you protect and build for their future and protect your seniors. That's a hell of a lot to do. And it's a much harder thing to have that coalition, which is why I believe, and I'll wrap it with this, just giving you my quick down and dirty on this. I believe that we need a third party. And I believe you're going to see the emergence of a couple groups. I think that the Forward Party is one that you should keep in mind and look at very seriously, because they're organized. They're actually doing the work of building the infrastructure, getting on the ballot, getting ranked choice voting, working with other groups that are pro-democracy groups, maybe a little libertarian, a little center-right, but principles first with Heath Mayo. And then I've started the Redefining Freedom Center, which will launch next year here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so you're going to see a lot of former Republicans like myself, Liz Cheney, and others realize that MAGA is now the Republican Party. That ship has sailed, folks. That's done. Like, you will never, ever again see your father's Republican Party or your grandfather's Republican Party or the party I grew up in of Jack Kemp and Christy Whitman and Tom Ridge and Republicans like Pete Wilson, the governor of California, and a U.S. senator who I worked for when I was in college. Those Republicans don't exist anymore. Mitt Romney, gone. Liz Cheney, gone. The Bushes, gone. And so I think that is now a more populist Trump party. And it's going to become more and more radicalized, more and more conservative, more and more conspiracy theory driven. Elon Musk will be a staple in that party. And so the Democrats have some soul searching to do on messaging. And let me end with this, because I know it's controversial, but it's come up a lot and it's true. When I saw the trans ad that Trump and the Republicans were running, I saw it when I was traveling somewhere late summer, early fall. And I remember direct messaging the chairman of the DNC and others who I know well and saying, you better pay attention to this. And let me tell you why. Because this issue of women's sports and gender issues and pronouns and trans people is still not something that the American public understands, that they embrace, that they support. Whether we like that or not, that's the reality. And when you looked at the crosstabs and you listened to everybody talking last night, this came up again and again and again, that went unanswered. And that ad was run a lot of times in the Rust Belt states. And so people saw that ad, and the ad said something to the effect, she supports them and we, and I support you. It's simple talk like that. The economy, you're taking away my freedom, you're making me agree to things that I don't agree with, that I don't want to be a part of in my work. I don't like this diversity, equity, and inclusion training. Yeah, we may need diversity, we may need inclusion, that's nice, but don't make me deal with it. And it's very transactional. And that's where we are as a culture. And I think that's really important for Democrats and progressives and moderate Republicans like myself, who were all in for Kamala Harris, to recognize that the country has moved in a different direction. And although if you put together independents, which make up 34% of the electorate in the United States, and Democrats, which make up 32%, that's 66% of the electorate. And the other 34% are Republicans, right? So we're still the vast majority, but the independents sit it out because they hate both parties. And they're right to. The party system is broken. Too much money, too long of a process, too much nastiness, too much viciousness. And so people are turned off and they live their lives and they're just like, whatever, as long as I can put food on the table, as long as I can take a vacation, as long as I can give my kids something. And when I can't, I got a problem. But as long as I can do me, it's very transactional. And so the Democrats focused a lot on the big democracy argument, right? Being pro-democracy. It matters. Ben Franklin said it best when he said it's a republic if you can keep it, right? When they came out and decided that this would be a republic after the Declaration in 1776. And Franklin was right, if you can keep it. And what he meant was republics don't last long. They don't have long shelf lives. Look at Rome. Look at other great republics throughout history. They start to unravel, particularly in diverse, not homogeneous, but heterogeneous societies like America, right? You have a lot of different people trying to meld into and salute one flag, have one set of values. And I think Donald Trump has turned that on its head. He's broken every rule. He will get away with every crime he committed. That's going to happen. Jack Smith is already folding up tent because he knows he's going to get fired in January. And Judge Merchan, who has to sentence Trump in New York, in a couple weeks, will either punt and cancel the hearing or dismiss the case. Because what judge is going to put in jail someone who just got elected president of the United States? You see what I mean? Like, Donald Trump has been able to do what none of us can do. He's broken rules that none of us can do. And that's not okay, because either we're a nation of laws and equal justice for all under the law, or we're a nation that says rich white men with a lot of money who have a lot of powerful friends and can buy their way out of things, they don't have to abide by the same rules. Convicted felons can't even join the military. Convicted felons can't work at Starbucks or Walmart. Now one's president. You see what I mean? So this is where we are. And I just wanted to tell you that if you're feeling bad today, I get it. Vice President Harris ran an amazing race. She's an amazing human being. She has nothing to be sad about or remorseful about or feel like she messed up or she didn't deliver. She gave it her all for 107 days, and we gave it our all. The other side won. So in this country, we respect that. We don't storm the Capitol. We make phone calls. We congratulate. We concede. Trump did none of that, by the way. And yet he was rewarded with another 4 years. And I don't think that he will serve 4 years. I think that J.D. Vance is going to be your president sooner than you think. Because Donald Trump, as he exhibited on the campaign trail, is not well. He's not emotionally stable. He is unhinged. He is uncorked. He is nasty. He doesn't remember where he is. He doesn't have a command of the facts. He had zero policy. Project 2025 will be the policy of this country. You better buckle up. And I think that folks who voted for this, when the mass deportations start and the laws that they have already told you, to their credit, they've been very transparent about what they're going to do. So for those of us that didn't vote for this, we're going to have to buckle up, put up a resistance, and do what we need to do to keep this republic. So I'm looking forward to doing my part. I hope all of you are as well. Take a couple days, sleep, heal. Sending much love to the vice president's campaign staff and her social media staff. You guys were amazing. And also sending a lot of love to the vice president and her family for an amazing effort. Amazing. She has nothing to be sad about. She's still a young woman. She just turned 60. I don't know if she'll run again. I don't know if Kim, I don't know if she will run again. I don't know. She got beat pretty badly. So I doubt the party nominates her again. But maybe she runs the party. Maybe she helps to set the future. I don't know, but I hope she stays involved because she still has a lot to offer this country. And she served it well. And I'm proud to know her. I'm proud to have supported her. Proud to do everything I could to help get her elected, as I know all of you are. So I just wanted to stop by and tell you, take a deep breath. Everything will be okay. We are stronger together. We are in this together. Again, there's 64% of us as compared to only 34% of them. So we are the majority. And we get to decide what kind of country we want to have, what things we will allow and not allow. And, thanks, Dan. And so I just wanted to say that don't let it take you too far down. This isn't 2016. It's a different country. But Donald Trump is the president-elect. And I pray to God that somebody somewhere has his ear that can help him understand that he will need a Nikki Haley in his cabinet. He will need a Glenn Youngkin in his cabinet. And I am not a fan of either Haley or Youngkin. I think they're cowardly, spineless, like Bryant, Kemp, and all the rest of the people that know Donald Trump is unstable, unwell, and unsafe. And they were sycophantic, and they sucked up, and they were cowards. The people like Adam Kinzinger, and Liz, and Olivia Troy, and Joe Walsh, and all the people who, and Jeff Duncan, my colleague at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, former lieutenant governor, those people put their families on the line to endorse Vice President Harris, to help her, because they knew the danger. It is what it is. Those who didn't speak, and to hell with President George W. Bush, who I'm just appalled that you make a statement this morning. Do you think we want to hear from you now, sir? We don't. So, minorities did not support Trump. That's just not true. That's lumping. You got Latino men, Latina women, and black women overwhelmingly supported Harris. White women did not, and Latino men did not. Black men stayed at the same levels they did in 2020. If you're going to come at me, you got to come at me with facts. Because I know them, and I'm better at this than you. So if you're going to come on here and tell me stuff, have your stuff right. Don't just say and lump people together, because you got to read crosstabs. You have to break down things to understand who did what and where. 52% of white women voted for Donald Trump. After all of this hoopla, after 200,000 white women on the answer the call that Shannon Watts and people had pink and raised $11 million, they still didn't change. I'm not talking about those women. I'm making the point that there was a 1 point shift from 2016 Hillary to 2024 Kamala. 1 point. White women benefit from patriarchy and, sadly, systemic racism. They just do. They always have. Affirmative action benefited white women in this country. Take a look at the C-suite. Take a look at the Fortune 500. There are 53 women CEOs in the Fortune 500. One of them is black. That's Tony Towns-Whitley here at SAIC in Virginia. One. And before her was Ursula Burns. One. And before that was Sora Rosalind at Starbucks, rather at Walgreens. One. I'm going to just tell you the truth, because that's all I can do. So take a deep breath. We'll live to fight another day. Trump will do Trump, and Trump is Trump's own worst enemy. My heart breaks for NATO. My heart breaks for Ukraine. My heart breaks for Israel and that region. Trump's going to do things that are not going to be helpful. Taiwan, it's a lot. We have to pray. Like I said, we have to be the resistance. We have to work to understand what happened and how we communicate better with people and build bridges better with people who voted against their own well-being and self-interest. And they did. They'll figure it out when RFK Jr. takes the fluoride out of the water and gets rid of vaccines and polio comes back and measles come back and everything comes back that we got rid of because we had the medicine and the science. And when things are out of control, like they were during COVID and over 1 million of our people died, we will hear people say, I shouldn't have voted for Trump. Well, I don't want to hear it then. Because it's what you signed up for. So be man and woman enough to accept it. Thank you for your thoughts. I don't know if Trump is eligible for another term. That's interesting. I'm not sure because this is a new term. And you can only have 2 consecutive terms is my understanding. So I'm assuming he is. I'm just not sure. That's a good question. I'm going to research that. I got to go work on my column, the postmortem. I've been dreading it. I had 2 started. One if she won, one if she lost. And I'm going to go do some international media right now over in Europe and down in Australia. And talk to our friends overseas who are all very concerned about Donald Trump being reelected. They just are. But guys, America's been through worse. But we are going to have to fight this because Project 2025 and everything else is very real. It's not a joke. It's real. So I love you. Thank you for following me. Thank you for sticking with me. And I pray that all will be well here with the United States of America. And God bless you and keep you. Until next time. Bye-bye now.